Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into something that is absolutely make or break for anyone involved in building a product. We're talking about the art of effective elicitation.
Seriously, this is the most important question you can possibly ask. Because if you get this wrong, you could end up building a fantastic, beautiful product that absolutely no one needs. So how do you get it right? Well, it all starts with a process called elicitation. And today, we're going to give you a framework to totally master it.
So, let's break this down. What's the real challenge we're all facing here? It boils down to one simple but tricky thing: gathering the right requirements.
Yeah, elicitation is definitely not a one-and-done meeting. You can't just pop into a room, ask a few questions, and boom, you have all the answers. No way. It's this ongoing, progressive discovery, a constant cycle of communication. And if you don't have a structured approach, let's be honest, you're pretty much just guessing.
Okay, so how do we bring some structure to this whole process? Well, there's a really simple but super powerful mental model you can use. I want you to picture your project as having two different worlds, separated by a single line. So above the line, that's the strategic world. That's the big why behind the whole project, the goals, the real business needs. And then below the line is all about the tactical stuff, the how, the nitty-gritty details, the user stories. The absolute key here is knowing which world you're operating in at any given time.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. This is a practical roadmap. The stage your project is in right now tells you exactly where you need to start your whole elicitation process.
And what I love about this is how it really guides your actions. Look, if you're on a brand new project, you have to start above the line. You need to understand that core problem first. Now, what if you're jumping onto a project that's already in motion? Your first step is still to get that above-the-line context before you dive into any of the details. And for support projects, yeah, you'll focus below the line on the enhancements, but you always have to keep those strategic goals in mind.
Okay, so now we know where to start asking our questions. The next big piece of the puzzle is figuring out who we need to talk to. Because let me tell you, asking the perfect question to the wrong person, that is a one-way ticket to nowhere.
And this right here perfectly illustrates that split. For those big, strategic, above-the-line questions, you're talking to project sponsors, to executives. But for the tactical, below-the-line details, you've got to go straight to the source, the end users, the people who actually live and breathe this process every single day.
All right, so knowing who to ask is half the battle. The other half, and this is just as important, is knowing how to ask. It's all about crafting the right kind of questions. Just take a look at this question. How does the expense process currently work? This is a classic open-ended subjective question. It's not asking for a simple yes or no, right? It's an invitation to tell a story. It basically says, hey, walk me through the entire process from start to finish. And this is your most powerful tool. As a business analyst, your entire job is to deeply understand processes, and questions that start with how are the absolute key to unlocking that deep understanding. They're what reveal the hidden steps, the real pain points, and all the people who are actually involved. Now, let's contrast that with a completely different kind of question. Do you drink coffee? You can see right away this is closed-ended, it's objective, it's quantitative.
The answer is just yes or no, and that gives you, well, almost nothing to build on. Questions like this just shut down the conversation. When you're trying to understand a complex business flow, they are a total dead end.
So, the big question is, how do you make sure you're consistently asking those powerful, open-ended questions? Well, there's a simple but really effective four-part framework you can use. First up, D is for domain. Before you even think about asking a question, you've got to orient yourself. What's the business area we're talking about? Is it accounts, HR, sales? And crucially, who is the subject matter expert here? Your first job is to find that person. Next, P is for problem. Think of this as your above-the-line check-in. What is the actual pain point we're trying to solve? Why on earth does this project even exist? You have to get to the core why.
Then we have H for how. Okay, now you have permission to go below the line. This is where you ask how the current as-is process works. You need to get the step-by-step, ground-level reality of what happens today.
And finally, W is for who. So as you're mapping out the how, you need to clarify responsibility. Who does what? Who performs each specific action? Which role is accountable for every single step?
So by moving through domain, problem, how, and who, and it's really important to do it in that order, you build this incredibly complete picture. You're starting with the high-level strategic why, and then drilling down to the specific tactical details in a really structured, repeatable way.
You know, when you boil it all down, this entire framework is about a simple shift in perspective. Before you ever ask how something should be built, you have to make absolutely sure you have a crystal clear answer to why it's being built in the first place. And that right there is the difference between just being busy and actually being effective. That's the real key to solving the right problem.